The Money Show.
Shapeshifters.
So I've got a remarkable older brother who, whenever I take my kids to visit, there's always something from the crazy store to entertain them. It's not something that's designed for a long time. It's designed for a good time. But the kids absolutely love it, and they have a brilliant time with the item. Now, by the end of this year, there could be as many as 500 crazy stores around southern Africa. And it's the job of Kevin Lennett, the managing director at Crazy Store for the past decade, to make that happen. They're sitting on about 430 odd stores at the moment. But before we get into Crazy Store and growth and the history and all of that sort of stuff, you're in New York City, Kevin. You're at the National Retail Federation Council. Of what relevance is that to you, your day job, and the Crazy Store?
The National Retail Federation is a retail conference, and what we do is I come here every couple of years, and we listen to fantastic speakers, all the CEOs of all the largest American retailers, as well as some international retailers as well, who give their outlook on what's happening in retail, what the forecasting is, how it's been for the last year or two, and then backed up by economists and shapeshifters of those ilks, telling us what to expect and what not to expect in the world of retail. So we come here hoping to learn a few things and to bring them back home and to inspire us to continue delivering what we believe is world-class retail back in South Africa.
Well, what do you learn then? I mean, again, the Crazy Store isn't a unique concept. There are pound stores and dollar stores all over the world that do kind of similar things. I'm guessing that the origins of Crazy Store would come from that sort of influence.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, and if you look at the dollar stores and the ilk at the moment, they are absolutely flying and expanding in the current economic sort of conditions that are out there. All of those businesses are absolutely thriving. So it gives us the confidence, but you also need to learn from the high-end retailers as well. It isn't about delivering just a certain service for what you perceive to be a certain customer. You want to make sure that the experience you give, no matter what type of retailer you are, is world-class, and that when people walk in and walk out of your store, that they want to come back and that they really feel good and they actually feel happy and nicely engaged. So yeah, lots to learn when you walk the streets of New York as well. You know, you spend lots of time going in and out of stores, and there are so many retail outlets here of all sorts of different types. So it's a fantastic, in many ways, affirmation of what we're doing, and it also makes you think twice about certain things you are doing and how we can do them better.
I mean, just because you're selling inexpensive stuff doesn't mean that your customer has to have a cheap experience, if you know what I mean, if you could differentiate between those two things.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, the biggest drives we've had in the last sort of 10, 11 years was about trying to make sure that our business is legitimate and credit-worthy to everybody, and that it's a credible business. And the experience is driven by, we have a couple of programs in our stores, which is 5-star service, at your service, and then backed up by another principle of awe, which is authority, which is the authority of our staff knowing what they're doing. The W stands for warmth, and the E stands for empathy. And we want our staff to interact with our customers in that way. And I think we all appreciate that when we get treated well. So yeah, it doesn't matter whether you're spending 100 Rand or you're spending a couple of thousand Rand, we'll still want to be treated well. We still want to enjoy the experience.
No, exactly right. And so what lessons are you bringing back from New York City then, from what you've seen this time around? Is how has the world changed from a retail perspective?
So the big takeaway that I picked up this year, which is that physical retail is back. I remember coming here in my days when I was with Sportsman's Warehouse. I used to come to the conference as well. And about 25 years ago, talking about that retail is dead. The theme this year is that physical retail is back, and what it's doing is that it's interacting with digital, and to the point that most of the retailers are talking about digital needs the physical. So you speak to you listen to the CEO of Lowe's, for example, which is a home improvement company with 2,200 stores. Basically, what they're talking about is the physical actually drives their digital, because they've got 2,200 distribution centers. So that's probably been a big take back. The other thing is that, you know, and this is what I really like. I've always spoken about the fact that retail is really a simple game that we manage to overcomplicate terribly. It's an old profession. It's the same profession. It's about providing goods that people need at a really good value price and in the best possible way. And we tend to complicate it so much that we forget about the front line. We forget about the amazing staff that you need to deliver great service to your customer. And there's been a lot of that talk back again this year about, making sure that your front line is well looked after and that your staff are well trained and educated and engaged, and that we reward them mentally as well as, physically. And from a pay perspective, we're talking about actually acknowledging people doing jobs well. And that's been a big drive. Aside from that, the talk here, Bruce, and I'm sure you know it better than I do, is they reckon that America is not going to go into recession. If it does, it's going to be a very, very mild recession, and they're very, very optimistic about 2024. So I'm hoping that'll translate into a very optimistic 2024 back home in South Africa as well. And this year they're seeing a steady growth. So it's quite a positive outlook, which is really nice to hear from a retailer perspective, certainly.
You cut your teeth at Sportsman's Warehouse. That's where you learned your trade. What was it that drew you into the Crazy Store? Because Crazy Store, I think, is about 25 years old. You've been there for the last 10.
Yeah, I'm in my 11th year now. I spent 20 years at Sportsman's and left there to take a year sabbatical and got a call to come and consider the Crazy Store. And what I loved about what I saw was, well, first of all, I thought there was a lot of low-hanging fruit and a lot of opportunity in a business that had been really well set up and well positioned by the previous leadership teams. But aside from that, the appeal is that you really, our saying is, you never know what you might find. And there is such a wide variety of product and the ability to continually bringing in new product, new exciting product categories. So there's never a dull day in retail, full stop. But in the Crazy Store, there are so many different categories. You might find this year balls are doing really well. Next year, it's the novelty department. Then it's pets. Then it's toys. Then it's stationery. There's arts and crafts. And you move through the different little tides, I suppose you'd call them, of success or failures of those products as they come and go, the ebbs and flows. So that really appealed to me, the opportunity to take that wide amount of product and categories and turn it into something that the consumer could understand and find easily in our store, organize it well and make it a really simple, convenient, easy shopping experience. So it's been great fun, actually.
How do you choose? I mean, are you led by customers? I mean, your customers, as you say, if they're suddenly more keen in stationery than ever before, you stock more stationery. If they're more keen on balls or squidgy toys or whatever the case is, you stock more of those things. Are you customer led in that respect, or trends, global trends led?
So I think it's all of the above. First of all, I think that we can create demand. So if I decide that I think that really we can do a lot better in balls and we should be selling more balls, we'll focus on that. We'll buy in more balls. We'll enlarge our range. We'll find better price points. We'll find a wider range of price points. We'll display it better in our stores. We'll advertise it more vigorously, and you create a demand. So I think that, with 462 doors or stores in the country, you actually, by simply displaying it well and doing it concisely and consistently across all stores, you create demand. Aside from that, I definitely spend a lot of time in stores, and one of my most fun experiences recently was Christmas Eve. I got to our Canal Walk store at 8 o'clock for an hour or two, wanted to see how they were doing, and left there at 2 o'clock because it was so busy, and the customers you can see where they're shopping, what they're looking at, and immediately get an idea of what they need more of by seeing where they're heading to, which aisle they're at. So I think a lot of that, and yes, internationally, when I spend time in America, like now, I spend time walking in and out of all types of retailers, not just our type of retailer, all types, seeing where they're putting their focus behind. And that generally inspires us to say, well, there's a direction here that we can go in.
How do you choose what goes into the store? I mean, it's a weird question, because the store, as you say, you never know what you might find. I kind of am confused on the strategy. The strategy is to delight customers, fine, but you're neither fish nor fowl. It's kind of trying to work out what you are, from inexpensive coat hangers to fun toys to gizmos to pictures to stationery, or it's practically everything.
Yeah, it is, and it's funny enough, because one of the things that I wrestled with when I joined the business almost 11 years ago, trying to say, well, who are we and what are we? And effectively, we're a general dealer, almost of an old ilk. But what we do is we center our business around toys. which is a go-to for kids, and our toy department is very significant and large and does well and has a good variety for all takers. And then we build it around needs, around what other departments that customers need in their daily lives. So we've got a kitchenware department, we've got a stationery department. So we build it a lot around what people actually need. And what we find is, the need tos are very important in tough times. The nice tos are great in easy times. So, we like to have product that people feel they need to come into our store to get. So, lines like black bags and consumable lines are very important because it brings people back all the time. But all the time it's serving a daily need of the customer. So it's not just a frivolous concept only. If it was just frivolous, we'd just have bouncing eggs like I threw at you about 8 years ago.
No, exactly. I've still got the bouncing egg, and occasionally my kids put it in the fridge.
Good.
And it still gets me. No, it's still there. A lot of the stuff, the quality of product is a concern, though. As I was saying, my brother's very good at this sort of stuff, and he buys stuff for a good time, not a long time, and the kids have had a jewel with lots of different things, but it's for a couple of days. And you kind of worry in a 21st century, more environmentally conscious society that a lot of this stuff doesn't last very long and ends up in landfill.
So I'll always argue with you on that again, but I'll agree at the same time. Again, going back, that's something we're worried about. One of the things we introduced is our promise statement. So our promise statement is simply around the product. If you're not happy with the product, consider it sorted. We don't debate it. It comes back. We'll refund you. We'll exchange you. We'll advise you on something different. Since sort of I've joined, we've put in a customer care department. We've got about 6 operators who run there all the time. We have put in a testing department as well from a product concept perspective, because yes, you've got to be careful. Product comes from a long way away, and what you ask for and what you get isn't always the same. So we are not happy at all with wanting products to last a couple of days. They must last longer. And we're only too happy to back that up by supporting those customers who may be disappointed in our stores. It's all about being credible. It's fine to have something that works for a day or two, but quite frankly, we want it to last a long time. I can say to you, with the greatest of honesty, I buy a lot of products from the Crazy Store. And I'm very rarely disappointed these days, which is fantastic. And every time we are disappointed, it's great. It's an opportunity to learn and to do it better. So no, we want to move away from that stereotype. We need to make sure that everyone trusts us, firstly, and trusts our products, secondly. And if we let them down, we will back them up. They can absolutely rely on that.
What makes a good product? One that sells, obviously, but something more than that.
Yeah, obviously something that sells. A good product is something that, first of all, a good product is well packaged, is well thought out, and it appeals to somebody for a purpose. So, a great product, there are lots of fantastic products out there, but they don't have a wide appeal, or they only appeal to a very narrow spectrum of people. So I would say a good product is something that appeals to a fairly broad base of people, works well for that broad base of people, and brings them enjoyment. And enjoyment can be in use, enjoyment, a good pillow in a decent hotel that gives you enjoyment, and nothing better than have a good night's sleep. So a good product is something that brings you a desired result, a bit of pleasure, or fulfilling the service or the need that it was supposed to fulfill.
Mm. When it comes to the growth opportunity, you say you've got 462 stores, possibly 500 stores in South Africa, Botswana, and where's the other place that you are?
Namibia.
And Namibia. There we go. By the end of this year. That's a hell of a growth ambition in a very low growth economy. But I think maybe Crazy Store is very well positioned for an economy that is under distress.
Yeah, I think our business is well positioned. Firstly, our consumer base is from age 2 to age 100. There's something for everybody there, so it works. Be it the older person buying something for their grandchildren or their children or their nephews, cousins, whatever it might be, and also across all gender lines, it appeals to somebody. So there's plenty of growth prospects, I think, still in South Africa for a store, for a chain like ours. There's no doubt that South Africa has got a lot of retail destination. I know we often debate whether we maybe have too many retail destinations, but I think the landlords will tell you right now that their vacancy rates are lower than they have been for a while. And generally, what the biggest trend that I've noticed in the last 10 years is that ultimately people want convenience. So, and we benefited that dramatically from during the COVID period. People didn't want to have to drive 30, 40 minutes to a shop. They wanted to get to the neighborhood center, get in there and get out as quickly as possible with the least disruption to their lives as possible, to get home and relax and try and recover from a very stressful world that we live in.
Yeah, and if you can bring a little bit of fun in, I think that's, part of it as well, is bringing a bit of joy into the system as well. Is the model transportable beyond the territories in which you currently operate? Is it transportable beyond Botswana, beyond Namibia, beyond South Africa, which are this region's wealthier countries?
Yeah, I think it is. Obviously, the biggest challenge there is logistics. I mean, our cost of product is low. I think our average spend sitting at about 106 Rand, and that's about 3.3 items. So it's a challenge from a logistic perspective, but will it succeed in Zambia and potentially Nigeria and places like that? Absolutely. Would it succeed in America? I think it would. But it's about logistics. And for us right now, we believe there's plenty of growth within our own country, and we want to make sure that we do the job properly here rather than being distracted.
What gives you the sense that you should continue investing in the South African environment, not diversifying your risk as so many people are intent on doing?
That's a very tough question. Look, I think that our first of all, our retail, every time I travel, our retail in South Africa is world class, be it all the various brands that you and I know and love. I think, first of all, we really do a good job. Secondly, I think that our country and our economy, despite all the toughness and the challenges it goes through, we're so resilient, and the South African people are so open to change and to embracing change and to finding a better way of doing it or working around problems. South Africa is without doubt in my mind still a country with a great future. I am an optimist regarding our country, and I'll never change from that perspective. On a lighter note, one of the speakers at the conference spoke about overcoming hurdles, and they said, if the elevator is broken, use the stairs. And I wanted to tell them, but we use the stairs anyway because we have load shedding. But I thought I'd better leave that alone.
They wouldn't understand. They really wouldn't understand. What's
I kept waiting for the lecture on load shedding. It never came up. I was hoping to learn something.
What is wrong with these people? Don't they understand what real problems are? What's your pet peeve at the moment? What's really annoying you about anything to do with the way in which you operate?
Pet peeves would, well, first of all, on a broader perspective, I find that people who don't treat other people with respect, it's always a big pet peeve. I hate sometimes seeing how people treat waiters or waitresses or restaurant owners or staff, retailers.
Your staff must get it in the neck from customers all the time. I mean, they're customer facing.
Of course they do.
Permanently, yeah.
Absolutely, they do. And it's tough for them. And, whenever I walk into a Woolworths or something, I always am amazed. You walk in there at 9 a.m. and the place looks spotless. That didn't happen by accident. It happened because there's a whole bunch of amazing people doing amazing things, making the store environment look amazing. So that's always a pet peeve. The other pet peeve I have right now is about retail. In January, I noticed in South Africa, and same thing in New York, as I'm walking around the streets here and back home in South Africa, I see these big signs. They say up to 50% off, up to 60% off. I can never find the up to 50% items. I only find the ones up to 20. And I know we've probably been guilty of that in my lifetime as well, but it is a real peeve. In fact, I'm going to go into a store here and I'm going to say, I want to see the under 60, the 60% discount. Can you find it for me? I'm not sure they will.
No, but it's a lie and it's a con, and we fall for it all the time. And until we push back in the way you propose, actually, it'll continue. Do you read much? Do you like to go to conferences? You learn, you absorb in that environment. Do you bother sort of reading for growth and for learning?
Yeah, I love reading. Reading is one of my escapes. Currently, I'm reading Koos Becker, the book titled Billions.
Yeah,
that's a really fascinating book. A lot of learnings there. I balance it with reading a good novel. So I'm reading a David Baldacci novel at the same time, which I purchased at the Crazy Store. So yeah, I love that. I'm not big on self-help. I love reading leadership books. I've read your books, Bruce. I like books where there's a bit of a case study, where you can follow a tale or a story. I'm a shopkeeper. I'm simple. We have to follow a very simple story to understand things. So yeah, I love reading.
Who do you think, I mean, present company excluded, of course, South Africa's greatest retailer of the last 100 years?
Sure. Well, two people come to mind that I've always personally highly valued, and that would be Raymond Ackerman, obviously Pick and Pay, and possibly not as well known, but Laurie Capini from Mr. Price Group. Both of those were, in my mind, true traders of the highest order and understood really what the customer is after.
Lovely insights. Thank you, Kevin Lennett, the Managing Director of The Crazy Store, on the line to us from New York City this evening. If you want absolute clarity and a clear signal, we must talk only to people in international countries, far away from us. He's at the National Retail Federation Council in New York City, picking up some tips on how to perk up the Crazy Store. 462 Crazy Stores, Namibia, Botswana and South Africa, most in South Africa, 500 by year end. Big growth ambitions.
The Money Show.
Shapeshifters.